Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hanson Finance Committee meeting of April 13th. Thank you all for being here tonight as we look to move through with the articles and the budget items for the upcoming town meeting. I will entertain a motion to open.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dugan.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Werdeman. We will do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan.
Aye.
Mr. McCormick.
Aye.
Mr. Powers.
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan, aye. We are open for business 6-0. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, everybody. I'll just go over a couple updates here before we dive into the agenda. Just a couple of items. Next week, we are holding the town forum to discuss the current override. There'll be an open forum for the town to ask questions of the selectmen, the finance team, and the administration. So I haven't gotten a full scope as to who they want to attend. I will be posting for that forum. So however many of us wish to attend, can attend, I will be attending. I haven't heard from the selectmen if they're looking to have the whole committee or just a representative sample. So just, I don't need a commitment just yet, but something to keep in mind for that night. I don't anticipate meeting that night for a formal FinCom meeting. That being said, we have to have our recommendations in by Tuesday morning to the town administrator so they can be published in the printed section of the town meeting book. So I had planned to sort of post for Monday night in order to wrap up any last minute items. However, it was brought to my attention by the town clerk that Monday is a holiday and we are not allowed to meet. So whatever items we do not finish tonight, we will have to either post for Friday or Saturday of this week to finish them out and get our submissions in prior to town meeting. So just something to think about, keep in mind as we move forward. Just because there's not enough time to post for the next 2 days. So we'll, if we don't get through everything or if we have questions or we want to push stuff off, our next opportunity to be Friday or Saturday afternoon. All right. Everyone got the updated documents I sent out. Any general questions on those? My plan for tonight was I was going to start on the special, go through the articles one by one, a read through, and and then make our recommendations as to recommend or not recommend each individual article, and then move on to the annual, and then get into our general fund discussion and working to finalize a number. So that's where we are right now. So with that being said, unless anyone has any questions about sort of the document dump that I provided, we'll jump right into the special town meeting. All right. So I will do, I'm going to do a full read through of the article, and then we will go through, once we've done a full read through, if it's all right, I think we'll go back and do the spreadsheet, and then we'll just do the, I'll name the article. If you want to hold it, we'll hold it. Otherwise, we can start voting, okay? Does that work for everyone?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that works.
All right, Article 1, to see if the town will vote to transfer $506.25 from free cash to pay unpaid bills from prior fiscal years or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 2. What's that?
I'll just accept it as written.
Accept as written. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to transfer $39,000 from free cash, $150,000 from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation fund, and $39,219 from recreation enterprise fund retained earnings for a total to be transferred of $228,219 to supplement appropriations previously voted in Article 6 and or Article 7 of the July 29th, 2020 annual town meeting for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 for various town departments as shown below, or take any other action in relation thereto. And those articles are the individual line items are listed below. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer $25,600 from free cash to pay for reimbursement in the Whitman Hanson Regional School District for emergency repairs made to the rooftop unit at the Indian Head Elementary School, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer $13,000 from free cash for the purchase of 10 electronic control weapons, also known as tasers, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer $15,655 from free cash for the purchase and installation of 12 desktop/laptop computers to be located at the police station, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer $180,000 from the article previously voted in Article 3, number 2 of the October 3rd, 2020 special town meeting to repair and replace the culvert beneath Winter Street, including any and all incidental costs thereto, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer $14,000 from free cash for improvements to private gravel roads in town, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer $14,500 from free cash for the purchase of a 72-inch commercial lawnmower, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to transfer $16,600 from free cash for the purpose of replacing the guardrails at Poor Meadow Brook on Route 27/Main Street, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to change the voted purpose of Article 11, number 5 of the July 29th, 2020 annual town meeting as follows. Original purpose as voted. Replace electrical wiring at Camp Kawani Lodge. Proposed new purpose. Replace and update any electrical wiring and fixtures at Camp Kawani Lodge to ensure that it is up to code, including upgrades to the security camera system, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to change the voted purpose of Article 40 of the October 6, 2014 special town meetings as follows. Original purpose as voted. In order to update a plan entitled Proposed Sidewalk Design North Side of Main Street from High Street to Indian Head Street, Hanson, Mass. This will include, but is not limited to, updating existing conditions survey originally performed in 2002, delineation and location of any wetland resources areas within 100 feet of proposed construction, and preparation of an existing conditions based plan for use in design of sidewalks. Proposed new purpose, to hire an outside firm to draft a conceptual plan of the revitalization of Main Street, Hanson, or take any other action in relation thereto.
What was the dollar amount? Do we know?
1 second. Article 11, I don't know the original amount, Ken. It says that there's no additional money in, it says the original article's purpose was to update the plan for sidewalks on the north side of Main Street from High Street to Indian Head Street. The construction of those sidewalks would cost in excess of $1 million. Since those sidewalks are cost prohibitive, this article would reallocate those funds to creating a conceptual plan for the revitalization of Main Street. And I don't have that exact number from the previous town meeting.
Okay.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the town administrator to enter in a postage meter contract for a 5-year period as per Mass General Laws, Chapter 30 Bravo, Section 12 Bravo, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel bylaws, Article 2, Tech 12, classification and compensation by deleting sections 11 alpha through 11 echo in its entirety and inserting the new sections 11 alpha through 11 echo as printed below. And those are all called out in your document that I gave you. And that is a full read through of the articles for the special town meeting. Discussion.
Kevin, more of just a point of clarification. What would you like to do in terms of like Article 2 that has 4 items under it? Are you taking the article as a whole, or are you looking to talk about each individual item?
If people have, I'm willing to go whatever way. Last time we did break it out because I believe in the matrix format, we did have one, I believe, that we did not recommend vice all 5. So I have no problem. If someone wants to hold one out, we voted a different way. Usually I think, Mike, what we've done in the past is we sort of do the blanket format that the moderator uses at town meeting. Say someone will motion to approve, and then Article 1, approved. Article 2, approved.
Right.
If there's a hold, we'll hold and we'll circle back and vote it individually. So I'm more than happy to do that if that's, if people want to go into the matrix and not recommend 1 or 2, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that I had a serious issue on any of that. That's one of those things that I think wanted to get clarified before we got too far into this.
Yeah, so if someone has an issue with anything in sort of a matrix format, just hold the article and then we'll go back through it. Or Mike, I'll call out Article 2, number 1, Article 2, number 2, Article 2, number 3. I'll do it that way.
Yep.
Because that way it's since we're not all sitting in the room together, it's a little bit easier. And I'll keep track of it that way. Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to approve, to recommend the articles as printed in the special town meeting. We'll go through them one by one.
So motioned.
Moved by Mr. Powers. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Wright. All right, we pull up the spreadsheet here. Article 1. Recommended. Article 2. I'm sorry, hold on. You gotta pull it. Was that the one that had the matrix style mics? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Article 2, number 1. Article 2, number 2. Recommended. Article 2, number 3. Recommended. Article 2, number 4. Recommended. Article 3. Recommended. Article 4. Recommended. Article 5. Recommended. Article 6. Recommended. Article 7. Recommended. Article 8. Recommended. Article 9. Recommended. Article 10, recommended. Article 11,
Hold.
hold. Article 12, recommended. Article 13, recommended. Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, and 13 are recommended. We will go back to Article 11. Mr. McCormick.
This is not the article that we all voted against a year and a half ago.
I'm sorry, you were very low. I didn't hear you.
Is this not the article that we all voted against about a year ago or a year and a half ago for the conceptual drawing of Main Street?
Remember that. Yeah, we voted no and then the town approved it, but was that more of like the building structure?
Yes.
I thought that was plan
No, I thought it was
Like the-
conceptual design.
design. Yeah.
I believe they're just rerouting money from something they don't want to something that we ex-need. I just need to know the cost.
Yeah, I don't have the cost, but it does say in the matrix that there is no additional money that's already been that hasn't already been appropriated. So there is no additional funding that's going to this.
Yeah,
So Ken, is your question basically
$1 million
that
or
if,
50,000?
yeah, I would say that where it was originally for a survey, it's probably in that 50 to 100 range. It's not the actual construction that would run $1 million plus.
But to Ken's point, I remember last year it was like 10 grand for, yeah, just like the design of it. So this is in addition to?
I only know what's written in the article. I don't know how much this goes to the last one because the last one was a drawing. This says plan. I don't know if they're one and the same. I don't know. I don't know.
All right, you can take a vote on it.
Any other discussion about Article 11?
Well, even if we vote no, regardless of you vote yes or no, it's not like the money's changing, right? It's gonna be the same dollar amount. It's just moving it from one pocket to the other where they're gonna spend it. Because it's not like it comes back to us if we vote no. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can vote it and then we can go, I can get the answer, Ken, and we can, if it's not sufficient, if it's not to our liking, we can reopen it. We can post for another day, but I would like to try and at least get a vote.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Vote it up.
Do I have a motion?
These things should have a dollar. I think they should have a dollar number with them. If that's what we're doing here is money, not just what it was voted a year ago, because I can't remember, you can't remember. No one seems to be able to remember what it was.
I say we voted to your point, Kevin, with the option if we need to revisit, then we revisit and adjust as needed because the money's already appropriated to. At least it's not additional funding. If they said like, oh, so for additional funding, we don't know what the dollar amount is, I'd be like, absolutely not, because we don't write blank checks, but it's already out there. I can't remember the exact dollar amount either, to be honest with you.
I thought it was around 50.
That's fine. I make a motion to accept Article 11 as written.
Motion's been made to recommend Article 11. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Werdeman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll do a roll call. Sorry, that was my bad. Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
All right,
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman. Mrs. Werdeman, I think you're muted. I didn't hear you.
Hi.
Gotcha that time. Mrs. Wright,
Aye.
Sullivan, aye. Recommended 6-0. And again, I will circle back on that and get any additional information and get it to you tomorrow. But I will post, while we're talking about it, which day would the committee prefer I post for? Friday evening or Saturday afternoon?
I will be driving to North Carolina Saturday afternoon, so I can take it from the car.
Fine with either.
I
know.
actually can't Saturday, and Friday I'm driving to Springfield.
All right, so
I
why
could
don't,
probably car.
Mr. Dugan, do you have a preference?
No, I mean, if you said choose one, I'd probably say Friday night as opposed to Saturday. But if
And
I'm the only
Yeah, I think-
only view on that, then sure, I could probably do Saturday too.
No, it sounded like the consensus was there for Friday, so I'll post for Friday. And if we don't need the post, I'll notify the town clerk and she can cancel it. But we'll plan on posting for, do people want to do the same time on Friday or? I don't know what everyone's schedule is. I'm fine with the same time on Friday, or if we want to do it earlier, I can make it work earlier.
Either way.
Fine with me, 7.
But
Okay.
yeah,
All right, then we'll plan on posting for the same time on Friday night. With that being said, that is the special town meeting articles. All right. So I also just received updated annual town articles. I received an email from the town administrator that says the town lawyer and Phil Clemens just gave me a new article that combines 2 articles on the annual town meeting warrant. Here's the posted warrant that the Board of Selectmen finalizing tonight. So I can forward, I can forward this to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. McCormick, are you able to access your email I have for you, or is there one you'd prefer? I have your fire department one. I don't know if you can access it right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. Just wanted to check. All right, I just sent that, so you should all have it. All right, I am going to do the same thing. I believe the articles that have been combined are Articles 15 and 16 into one. Yeah, so 15 and 16 have been combined into one. All right, so I will do the same thing. I will read through. If everyone can just sort of verify what I'm reading still matches up with the Excel spreadsheet that I sent out. Mr. Pars, if you could do that, that'd be great. If you could just keep me honest and make sure they match up, nothing else changed, and we'll go from that. And we'll do, if it's agreeable to everyone, I'll go through the same format where we read through, and then at the end we can, we'll hold the budget article, which is Article 4, and then we'll go through the general fund afterwards. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Annual town meeting. Article 1, to hear reports of the various town officers, committees, special committees, and act thereon. Article 2, to see if the town will authorize the treasurer collector to enter into compensating balance agreements during fiscal year 2022 as permitted by Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53, Foxtrot. Would take any other action in relation thereto. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to fix the salary and compensation of all paid elected officers and committees of the town as follows, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 4, to determine what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate by taxation, transfer from free cash, transfer from transfer from town ambulance funds, water department revenue, water surplus, Title V Special Revenue Fund, MWPAT loan repayment receipts reserved for appropriation, conservation notice of intent fund, overlay surplus, and fund balance reserved for reduction of future excluded debt, to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, and to provide for a reserve fund for the 2022 fiscal year, would take any other action in relation thereto. Article 5, to determine whether the town will raise and appropriate an additional $1.85 million from taxation to fund various town departments in fiscal year 2022, provided, however, that the amounts raised and appropriated hereunder shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters at an election of a so-called Proposition 2.5 override question in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 59, Section 21, Charlie of the general laws, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money to operate the Recreation Department during fiscal year 2022 under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, Foxtrot and a half. Would take any other action in relation thereto. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money in the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund to operate the transfer station during fiscal year 2022 under the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, Foxtrot and a half, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve from fiscal year 2022 Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues and the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2022, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. And the appropriations are listed below. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to adopt the capital improvement program as presented by the Capital Improvement Committee or take any other action in relation thereto. I have not received the Capital Improvement Committee capital improvement program. When I spoke to the town administrator this afternoon, he said they were still finalizing it. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and or transfer from available funds to various department capital accounts or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or transfer from available funds a sum of money to capital accounts for Whitman Hanson Regional High School related items or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept and enter in a contract for the expenditure of any allocated or to be allocated funds by the Commonwealth and or county pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 90, for the construction, reconstruction, and improvements of town roads. Said sum of money to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to set the spending limits of the following revolving accounts in accordance with Mass General Bylaw, Article 2, Tac 9, Section 3, as follows, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the $18,960,537,000 indebtedness authorized by the Regional School District Committee of the South Shore Regional Vocational School District to pay costs of remodeling and making extraordinary repairs to the South Shore Regional Vocational Technical High School, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, as more fully described in the district's 2018 Facilities Master Plan, provided, however, that upon the completion of the improvements described in the district's 2018 Facilities Master Plan, the district shall not borrow or expend any balance of this amount without the prior approval of the district's member towns in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16, would take any other action in relation thereto. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to revise its approval of Article 25 of the Town of Hanson Annual Town Meeting and submit to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Legislature a home rule petition to change the use of an 8.5 acre portion of land of a larger 62 acre parcel of land known as the Webster Billings Conservation Area, so-called Article 97 land, which portion of the land is shown on the schematic prepared by CDM Smith entitled Proposed Waterworks Facility and Proposed Areas for Land Use Conversion on file with the town clerk and will be described more particularly described on a plan to be placed on file with the town clerk at least 7 days prior to the town meeting, in which home rule petition will remove the restriction set forth in a certain order of taking dated February 25th, 1975, and recorded at the Plymouth County Register of Deeds in Book 4050, page 355, limiting the use of the parcel to conservation purposes and allowing the 8.5 acre parcel to be used as conservation land and wellhead area purposes, and to remove any other encumbrances on the title as may be required. And further, as consideration for the change in the conservation restriction authorized above, to see if the town will vote pursuant to Section 3 of Chapter 40 of the Mass General Laws to transfer care, custody, and control of a 25.403 acre parcel identified on it as Assessor's Map 49, Parcel 1, TAC 1 Alpha, from the Board of Selectmen to the Conservation Commission for the purpose of wildlife recreation and forestry. And further, as consideration for the change in conservation restricted authorized above, to see if the town will vote pursuant to Section 3 of Chapter 40 of the General Laws to transfer care, custody, and control of a 21,700 square foot parcel identified as Assessors Map 105, Parcel 6 from the Board of Selectmen to the Conservation Commission for the purpose of wildlife recreation and forestry. So I'd like to just take we can go back over that and read the explanation as we go through. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen on terms and conditions they determine to be most beneficial to the town to enter into a community choice aggregation program as per Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 134, and contract for electric supply for Hanson residents and/or businesses to execute and enter into any and all documents necessary to effectuate the same or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson, County of Plymouth, Massachusetts Land Use Regulations Zoning Bylaw Section 6, Golf Tax 6, by deleting the subsection in its entirety and inserting a new subsection. Said proposed changes being on file with the town clerk or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulation Zoning Bylaw by making various changes to said bylaw, said proposed changes being on file with the town clerk, or take any other action in relation thereto. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw of the Town of Hanson by making the following changes thereto, by deleting the text shown as strike through and inserting the italicized and underlined text shown Section 6, Use Regulations, subsection Mike, Special Requirements for Marijuana Establishments, subsection 3, defined as follows. And I'm not going to go through and read all those. So I'll give everyone plenty of time when we go back through. And then it doesn't appear that it appears they're missing the labeling on one of these. Oh no, I get the article, the voter article just goes at the bottom.
Yeah, that's going to be on the ballot, right?
Yes.
Last thing.
All right. So before we even questions on articles for the annual.
Is there a particular reason that the Board of Selectmen have decided not to vote on any of the big money articles? They waiting for us?
They're doing it tonight. So we have,
But they were able to vote on everything last week that they wanted to.
yeah, they voted the special last week. And because I guess they knew these draft changes were coming to, Mr. Powers, was I correct that they combined Articles 15 and 16?
Yeah, then everything
And
beyond
then
that
everyone
got pushed
bumped up one.
Yeah.
So there are only 19 articles now, vice the 20 that's on our spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So that is a change.
Well, that didn't change their vote, though. They voted on things before and after that. They didn't vote on any big article number. Are they waiting for us to do that? And then they can follow in behind like they did last year?
Well, they're not going to be able to do that this time around because
Yeah,
they're
they're voting tonight, so.
So, so our votes, I mean, it says on their sheet, it says on the spreadsheet which ones they've already voted to recommend. I don't know if you have that available, Ken.
Yep, I do.
So as you mentioned, they didn't vote 4, which is the budget, 5, which is the override, 6, which is the recreation, 7, Board of Health, I should say the transfer station, 8, I'm sorry, 9, which is the capital improvement matrix. So they didn't vote, and then they voted all the remainder of them. So I am, I don't know what their votes are going to be. I would imagine that if they all voted to place the override, that they would vote for that as well as the budget. I know that the town administrator's recommendations were included in our general fund fiscal year 2022. His recommendations are there. So, I mean, we're more than entitled to wait. You know, if people want to wait till Friday to see what they voted, or if we need more answers, we can vote what we want now, and we can go back in and reopen them.
Nope, I don't want to wait. I was asking a question. That was it.
Yeah, to be honest, I had this.
They seem to do this every year. They I don't know.
No, I brought this up to Mr. Mitchell and said that, we're always forced to try and wait to the last minute to do our duty to the town because, one, the selectmen seem to want to wait to the last possible minute, and they have the purview of changing the warrant. So we sort of have to be reactive to what they do. If I knew they weren't going to change the warrant, it wasn't brought to my attention that they were changing the warrant till this afternoon. So that's point one. The other issue is I brought up to Mr. Mitchell was the capital improvement. I mean, I don't think we've formally recommended any capital improvement projects for a couple of years now because they wait till town meeting to get it to us. And I can't figure out what the holdup is in approving a matrix and getting us dollar value. So I know that, as of this afternoon, the selectmen didn't have it either.
There is one in the back of the budget, but it's from January.
Yeah, that's not accurate.
Right, that's what I mean. I mean, there's stuff on here, but
No, I don't want to hold it up. Absolutely not. I mean, we can, as a board, we can figure out what we want to do, and it's just it always seems convenient. You know what I mean? And it's getting aggravating. It's just extremely aggravating that they can't do what they're actually elected to do in the right format. It's just absolutely aggravating.
I understand. I agree. All right. So I entertain a motion to recommend. I'll read through the articles individually, and then we can put holds when we want to hold, and we'll circle back. But I'll entertain a motion.
So motion.
Moved by
Second.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mrs. Wright. Article 1. Recommended. Article 2. Recommended. Article 3. Recommended. Article 4. I'm assuming we'll hold that one. That's the full budget. Hold.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
I saw your mouth moving, but
Yeah.
Article 5.
Hold.
Yeah.
Hold. Article 6. Recommended. Article 7. Recommended. Article 8. Recommended. Article 9.
I think we want to hold that one.
Hold. Article 10. Sorry, I'm just going back up to. Hold on Article 10.
No, we're good.
Recommend Article 10 or hold? I'm sorry.
Recommend.
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 I got hold on 4, 5, and 9 so far, just as a heads up.
5 and 9. I agree. Article 11.
Is that tied to 9 because it's a capital?
It is the
Is 10 tied to 9, you mean?
11. 11 because it's a capital improvement.
11 is the Whitman Hanson Regional High School related items. That's the school's capital.
Different than the capital on Article 9, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Recommended. Article 12. Recommended. Article 13. Recommended. Article 14.
Hold.
Hold. Article 15. Recommended. It's good. Sorry, give me 1 second. I just want to renumber these. So Article 16, Green Hanson community aggregation. I'd like to hold that myself.
Agree.
Article 17. Recommended. Article 18. Recommended. Article 19. Recommended. So that leaves us recommending Articles 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, and 19.
Kevin, question for you.
Yes, sir.
So we have that as those items being recommended on a motion and a second, but we don't have a final vote on all of those as of yet.
Right. Well, yeah, so I'll go back now,
Yep.
Mike, and we'll go through all
Yeah.
of them, and then we'll do a full vote of them, okay? So I will entertain a motion to recommend Articles 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, and 19.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mrs. Wright. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman,
Aye.
Mrs. Wright,
Sorry. Aye. Couldn't find my
Mr.
mute my
Sullivan,
button.
aye. The articles are recommended by a 6-0 vote. Thank you, everybody.
Do you know who, it's probably Article 19 now, not 20, who the no vote was? What's
The cannabis delivery,
Yes,
do I know what the selectman vote was?
it was 4-1. Do you who know no was?
I do not know who the no was. I can ask that question. All right, so I'd like to skip over Articles 4 and 5, since they are the main budget article and the override, and go to, well, we'll have to skip 9 as well. That's capital improvement matrix. That brings us to Article 14. I believe, Mr. Dugan, you held that?
Yeah, is this the social revoke tech?
Yep.
So just my 2 cents on this is that under normal circumstances, under a year where we're operating fine, I don't have an issue with this. What I have an issue is that on the spreadsheet, funding source or dollars, it's listed as 0. And I get the fact that this would be by the time they get the deal closed, the bond issued, or however they plan on doing the financing, and then you start something, you have an interest-only period. By the time we actually are paying our share of this, it's probably a good 2 years down the road. So I get the fact that it's 0 now, but the point that I just want to make to the committee is that sooner or later that, we're going to have to start paying our share on this. And if we have an override that does not pass, we're reducing services. We're trying to find a way to be able to fund things back to where they were. We've got to keep in mind that we're going to be adding another probably $100,000 a year in debt service at a minimum on this that potentially would happen in 2 years. So call it fiscal 24. That, and then that 100,000 would be assuming the whole 18 million was used. And, I get the fact that some of that stuff's going to take a while to build. I don't know the structure of how they're doing this. I think the phrase blank check was used earlier. I just wish this was broken up a little bit more or had a better idea as to the structure of the financing as to when the bill is going to come due. Because if the override does not pass, we're cutting that much out of the budget and we're laying people off, but then we're going to be looking to fund the debt service on this at some point. And it's just going to add to a situation where, contractual obligations, salaries continue to go up. And that hole that we find ourselves in is just going to get that much bigger with this additional debt payment.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think I'm the one that used the blank check. We could use 8 million next year. We could use 18 million next year. We just don't know what they're using. I just think it's an awful way to do it. I get what they were doing when they presented it. I don't agree with it. Especially like Mike said, when we're trying to cut and save and seeing if the override could pass. They could use 8 million next year. You never know what you're going to end up paying on the amount that they used.
Sorry.
Further discussion on Article 14.
So on the 18 million, our share is 13.65% of that though, right? So it's
Yeah,
not
about
8 million.
2.5.
Well, yeah, I think it works out to what, about 2.5 million?
Yeah,
Right.
It would be our share, and argument's sake, say you're amortizing 2.5 million over 20 years. So that's kind of where I was spitballing the 100,000 a year in debt service. But it's you don't know how you draw 2 million this year, 4 million. When's the draw period end? When does it start amortizing? And I get the fact that doing it as one financing proposal makes things easier as opposed to it being 3 or 4. Logically, that just doesn't make sense. But we have to commit today to signing up for our share of 18.9 million bucks. And if the override does not support the budget just to keep things as is, then all I'm saying is that there's that much more that would then we would be on the hook for. And, in its most simplest terms, if we're committed to it and we have to fund that, again, I'm just spitballing 100,000 bucks. Is that another salary of something, or is that salaries and benefits for somebody else? I don't know. It's my comfort level about getting into this agreement today when the bill will come due tomorrow is concerning given our current fiscal circumstances.
all good points.
So would you be more comfortable, Mike, if we, voted on an article like this at October town meeting once we know where we stand?
My gut reaction is to be supportive of it. The times that I've worked with Mr. Hickey, it's my experience with him provides a lot of comfort in this thing not being mismanaged, for lack of a better term. But it's if I knew where we were going to be, I would be more comfortable with it.
Right.
I also would rather have a better idea of the structure of the financing that's going to support this. Again, I get the fact that there'll be interest only and drawdown periods, and how this thing is structured to the projects they want to do, which I think encompass 4 or 5 separate projects. But it's, if we're cutting $1.8 million out of the budget because the override fails at the ballot, I have a hard time saying that we've agreed to commit to $2.5 million of debt service potentially.
Further discussion. I will say that I do remember from the presentation that I believe there was the time limit with the MSBA that was why this was brought forward now. I think they have 270 days if they're accepted, and I don't know if we've gotten full word at that, but just something to consider. Further discussion on Article 14. Do I have a motion on Article 14?
Motion to add it in.
Say again?
Motion to add it in for the vote.
I don't know if I understand. Motion, you said to add it in, or So
Well,
we'll
we
just
didn't, we
vote.
didn't, we didn't vote on 1 through 19 with the 4, 5, 9, 14, 16 excluded yet, right?
Yeah, so we'll the ones we held, we'll vote individual line items. I think it'll just be easier. So that way, if there's a dissenting opinion, or if there's one we vote not to recommend. So we voted to recommend in bulk those other ones. The ones we've held, I think if we vote each one individually, I'll record the vote here on the spreadsheet. So do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend 14.
A motion has been made to recommend Article 14. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to recommend Article 14. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan,
Nay.
nay. Mr. McCormick,
Nay.
nay. Mr. Powers,
Yay.
yay. Mrs. Werdeman,
Nay.
I'm sorry, can you just say that again, Michelle?
Nay.
Nay. Mrs. Wright,
Yay.
yay. Mr. Sullivan, yay. That's a 3-3, so it's nothing, no motion, I guess, taken on it. We'll have to I don't know how we marked that one, a tie, but it's not recommended because we don't have a majority on it. So we'll have to circle back on that at a later time. Article 16, discussion.
I think you held it out, Kevin.
I did, I'm sorry. Article 16, thanks, Kevin. Article 16, Green Hanson Energy Aggregation. I was struck by the fact that there is no definitive answer as to if this brings a financial benefit to the town. You could end up paying the same rates. You could be locked in as a group. My concern was that, grouping everyone in the same thing and then you having to opt out. I'm not generally a fan of that kind of, especially for something as personal as your own utilities. So you're going to have to, opt out of this. I just see, I don't like the feel of it. So that was why I held it. Again, when we asked, Ms. Damasio gave us a very good presentation. I thought she was very thorough, but she still couldn't tell me that it was going to save us any money. She said it could, but I just don't think there's any way of knowing for sure whether it can, whether it's fiscally beneficial to any of the individual towns. Now, whether you're inclined to get your energy from a more green source, that's different story, I think. I'm looking at this from a purely financial standpoint. So that's why I held it.
Kevin, is this the one too that has fees associated
The
with
discussion
it?
on this.
Kevin, is this the one where
Mrs. Wright, you
there are
cut
also?
out.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is this the one where there were fees that had to be paid to like a broker too, that we didn't really know how those were going to get paid, or
Yeah,
if that just got
a broker
contract,
does.
or-
Yep, a broker is used to broker the entire deal. She had sent out that one-page sheet that sort of went into discussion of it, and that sort of we circled back on. There wasn't. It could save us money, but there's no one can definitively say because we don't know what the broker is going to do. We don't know what kind of deal they're going to broker for everyone. So that is why I held it.
Yeah, no, and I agreed with you. I've seen these go sour sometimes. So when I had asked her about what the downside was, she was a little bit just kind of iffy.
Mhm.
But I agree. I mean, she gave a good presentation, but I've just seen the downside to them.
Is it used anywhere else? Local or nearby?
I remember her talking about Rockland.
Let me just see. I'll pull up her sheet here.
Yeah, Ken, off of memory for me, the only thing I kind of remember was that, in terms of potential savings, and I stress the word potential, I want to say it was like maybe you might get $10 cheaper.
Yeah, it was very
It
minimal.
didn't.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, let's see. In her emails, I don't believe she called out a town in her letter that she sent out. There is a brokerage fee, Mrs. Wright. It is based on the per kilowatt hour that the energy broker purchases for the entire plan. So there is an associated fee. The
And that's
broker
built into
selected.
the town,
I'm sorry.
right?
Go ahead.
And that's built into the cost of the town?
I think
The
it's
town doesn't pay
cost
for
of those
the
are,
service,
if
but
you
he
opt
gets.
out, you're not paying.
Yeah, we don't pay him directly. He gets a commission on the total electricity purchased in the plan. So it will be
And-
included. It will be included in the contract price that we negotiate. So
Okay.
it'll be buried in there. We wouldn't really necessarily know what it is.
So it wouldn't necessarily be the town paying that. It's the folks that purchase through the aggregated agreement. So if
Correct.
you're participating, part of your bill will then pay that commission. It's not like a bill gets sent to the town.
Right.
And I think to your point, Kevin, you have to opt out, otherwise you're automatically in. So for
Right.
people who have to actually pay attention and opt themselves out.
That's correct. Further discussion on Article 16.
So from my understanding of it, there's like 60 cities and towns that are a part of it. A lot of it's down near the New Bedford area, but it's also something newer. I definitely wish they would have had some more details when they presented to us, because I think we got a high level, like all the perks, but not necessarily the negatives. I agree with you, Kevin, where it's everybody's opted in unless you opt out. I can see that creating kind of a nightmare for the town. But on the flip side, I also see a large portion of people, from what I've seen and folks that I talk to, that do want to participate in it. So I'd hate to hold them back from being able to do that. I wish there was a better plan for, I know she mentioned something about sending out postcards and all this other stuff for folks to like opt out, but we all know how that goes sometimes. It'd be interesting to see
Right.
how they're going to address that automatic opt-in for those that don't. I'll be honest, I'd probably participate in it, but it depends. And apparently some of it's got, like we watched what happened in Texas over the winter storms that they had. And part of this came from some of the storms a couple of years ago where the energy cost kind of skyrocketed. This apparently creates a cushion to protect from that. But again, I'm not one to force people to have to buy into this. And
Right. I think if there was everyone opts in instead of automatically being opted in and then having to opt out, I don't know if I'd have as big an issue with it. I just think it's I don't like the automatic opting in. That's just me. Further discussion. I will entertain a motion on Article 16.
I'll make a motion to accept it as printed in the warrant.
Motion has been made to recommend Article 16.
second,
Motion has been made and seconded to recommend Article 16. We'll do a roll call vote. Sorry, one second. Mr. Dugan.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. McCormick.
There's one that don't want to squash someone's green dream. I'm going to say aye.
Mr. Powers.
yeah, I'm going to say aye.
Mrs. Werdeman.
Nay.
Mrs. Wright.
Nay.
Mr. Sullivan. Nay. The article is not recommended.
Can I, before we jump into the other ones, can I go back to 14 to like make a recommendation to reopen and maybe rephrase how we voted on that?
Sure.
Do we need a second?
Do you want to discuss it again, or do you want to?
Yeah, well, discussion and then potentially revote and restructure how I phrased the recommendation for the article.
Okay.
Second.
So-
Motion's been made and seconded to reopen Article 14.
So I would say the potential to revote on this, thinking through what we were talking about. I know I had a yes vote on it, but to Mr. Dugan's point of, potentially resubmitting a recommendation to not recommend until further information is provided on the structure of the loan. I don't know if that would change either of the yes votes besides mine as part of that. I know we're kind of tied 3-3, but thinking through that and kind of the long-term ramifications. I think it's a good thing to support the schools and everything else, but Mr. Dugan's point, even Mr. McCormick, that's, we don't have a ton of information. So I don't know if it's worth revoting that since we were tied and it's not going to really change anything either way, but I'm just curious what everybody else thinks.
I support that.
Does you,
I think if we had a little bit more structure on it, the way that you and Mike and myself are asking for, I think it would be easier to vote if we knew exactly, what we were spending, if we had limits on what you could spend a year, like, Mike was saying that, we're going to have to come up with 100, 150,000, maybe $200,000, depending on what they spend. If it had a little more structure to it, I could probably vote yes. It's not going to change my no, but if we got more information, I could change it.
That was the background of why I said no, just for the same reason.
I kind of felt that from the group as we were going through, and that's thinking through it. Like, man, maybe I'm probably on those same, that same thought process. I'd like to support it, just with everything else going on. It's a tough pill to swallow without knowing some of that info.
Well, without knowing what the override's going to do, like how that's going to go, and
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Any other thoughts on it?
I hear what you're saying, and I don't.
Kevin made a very good point that the principal has been forthcoming. You obviously know him a little better than I do, and he's not going to mismanage it or anything. But I just think we need more information. So I'd make a motion to revote Article 14 on the premise that if we could get some more information on it.
Well, we reopened it, so it's been reopened for discussion. So I will entertain motions to recommend or not recommend Article 14.
So it'd have to be structured as a motion to not recommend 14 as written, with the option to revisit should additional information be made available.
No, it's just recommend or not recommend, because because we can't reword this. There's other, there's how many other district towns in the Voc district.
Yeah,
so it's got to be either a straight recommend or not recommend. And if we, whatever way we vote, we can go back and say, hey, this is why we did it. We just weren't comfortable enough with not knowing how much each year it's going to cost. And I'm thinking about it. If they get the votes from the other towns, I don't even know if it matters.
We could get outvoted on this.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know where it's general construction that they haven't gone out for the bids on yet. I don't think he could even guesstimate an amount per year unless he just took that total 18 million and broke it over. What was it, Mike? How many years did he say?
I'm guessing generally this would be financed. Most of these types of things would be financed with an IRB, and you'd be at least 20 years, possibly 25.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess on the max end, it was what he said, it was 18 million over 20 years. So again, I understand everyone's questions on it, and I don't know, our vote is, I don't want to say symbolic because some of the other towns may be in the same situation we are. But we can only vote to recommend or not recommend. We can definitely, after our vote, whichever way we go, we can definitely circle back with Superintendent Hickey and say, hey, listen, we just weren't, this is why we were comfortable or we're not comfortable with it. And he, but when he gave his presentation, he did not have a definitive number called out per year on this. So I don't even think he knows.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm kind of leaning no,
Yeah.
just because I'd rather have the additional info. Initially,
the only
at its
thing
surface, I'd like to support it, but
the only thing he had made a comment is that if we used it all right away, we couldn't afford to pay it back. So, but I think that's an extreme case. And I think, whatever that number would be based on as these projects get rolling, is already a number that is adding to potential deficit for us to try and overcome. So look, I think if, this shows up on the handouts as to, we were 3-3, I have no issue saying that as much as I would like to support this as a school item, that, this is where I was coming from. Not necessarily speaking for the committee, but and the other part of that too is you also will have already had all the debate on the overall budget and potentially the override before we get to this article. And for argument's sake, let's just say the article for the override, what happens if that doesn't even get out of town meeting? Then we're already dead in the water there, and that we wouldn't be able to afford this. So,
Yeah.
And just
to Kevin's point, it's with 8-member schools. We're one of 8 votes, and could end up being on the hook for it, regardless of how we vote.
And the only thing I will say, Mike, to your earlier point, because I just read it in the explanation, was it would not take effect until FY23 at the earliest. So it would be no effect on this year's budget. Just as a point, just to clarify, not that is a huge buffer, but that is FY23 would be the first impact felt.
Right, but you may spend all of 22 getting all your stuff lined up with your contractors and things to start in 23.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Ken, that you get to. I would be more comfortable saying you get to 24 before you start seeing anything having to be paid on that, even if it's just the interest portion of it. But if we've cut out $1,850,000 out of a budget that we've already cut to, by several $100,000, and we're trying to, backfill those lost services, this is adding one more thing. And, 2 years from now, are we in even worse shape? Sorry to sound so negative about it, but that's just my conservative nature worrying about, would we be able to pay for this down the road?
But to that's kind of where my mindset. I mean, long term, I'm somewhat supportive of this, and I think it's money that they need to do what they have to do. And I think South Shore Votech's a great, great opportunity, and we're a part of that community agreement with it. But it's just a couple of what ifs in my mind, I guess, with everything else we got going on. And to that point, it might not make a difference, but that's the only reason I wanted to revisit it, I guess. And sorry to hash it out if it's probably not going to make a damn bit of difference. But I guess I would push because I'm most likely going to change my vote just solely based on what we talked about, not because I don't want to support the schools, but, a motion to not recommend as written, I suppose, or whatever the term has to be. But
a motion has been made to not recommend Article 14. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Werdeman. We'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor of not recommending Article 14. Mr. Dugan.
Aye to not recommend.
Mr. McCormick.
I cannot recommend.
Mr. Powers.
aye.
Mrs. Werdeman,
I to not recommend.
Mrs. Wright,
Nay.
nay. Mr. Sullivan, aye. The article is not recommended, 5-1.
Sorry to add time to our meeting. I was just, that was chipping away at me. I was like, hey, we got to go back and touch on that. So.
Not at all. We've
All
got to
good.
we've got to get all these done. So the time limit is, we've kept it, the time limit, Mike will attest to some of the marathon sessions we used to have back in the day in person into the wee hours of the night, having to shut town hall on our own.
10:30, 11:15. Come on, we only have 2 more to go.
Yeah. Okay. So that also leaves articles not yet voted, 4, 5, 9, and 16. If we want to put a hold on the remaining articles, if we want to leave those, we can go into we can actually, I guess it's Article 4 is the elephant in the room that we'll have to take care of first. So I would open discussion on Article 4.
I guess in starting the discussion, I would start the discussion with a question in terms of we had talked lengthy about this last week in terms of, is it people or is it expenses? And, in reading through the overall budget that was part of the attachments, I didn't see a lot of ability to move those expenses. And looking through the budget books, I may be a party of one on that, but I think that's kind of where we were talking about things last week. I know Ken had mentioned of thinking, having his department head hat on of where could I cut this, save that. It was I don't want to say futile exercise on my part, but to me, unfortunately, I didn't see a whole lot of wiggle room in general operating expenses that wouldn't impact more than just one person, in terms of I go back to the licensing and things like for software that you don't have that, you've lost the whole program and that shuts things down. The overall proposal for if the override were not to pass, I'm supportive of.
Yeah, I think at this point it's got to be trying to nickel and dime to make any changes from how it's proposed, and we can cross our fingers and see where it goes once this hits the floor of town meeting and see what people want to do about it. But although I'm not necessarily optimistic, I'm hoping we see some movement with the override, which is kind of tied to this. But our town is put in a very difficult position based on how our town has voted the last several years. And I saw somebody post somewhere on social media or one of those sites the selectmen and the FinCom and everybody has to explain how we got here. Well, how we got here was the votes, and whatever our recommendations were, the selectmen's recommendation were or weren't, we got here because of how we voted, right? We have a lack of revenue, whatever that may be. And so when you have your expenses going up, you can either cut people, cut departments, or raise taxes. When we're not, we're voting to vote down potential revenue sources other than taxes. So it is what it is. It's a really tough spot. I don't want to see anything happen to our fire department or to our police department, or see anything long-term happen to our library, our rec fund, the transfer station, things like that. It sucks to have to make options like that or decisions like that, but this is where we're at. So, Mike, to your point, it's kind of a futile exercise to make a ton of changes, in my opinion. That so others might feel differently, but I see it as what it is, and we're really backed into a corner, and I think we have to potentially vote on it and go from there, and deal with the cards we're dealt. We can't really trade in any cards right now, so.
No, and I mean, Article 5 too kind of shows you where everything will come from if there is no override.
Yes, that's correct.
So, I mean, you kind of can see there, I mean, there's not a lot of room anywhere. I didn't really see anything either, Mike. So
I will say and just to interject here for a moment, Mike, to your point, in my discussion with the town administrator and the town accountant, both of them went through the expense lines and trimmed them down to what they needed to run the department. So that's just, they have done their due diligence on that. I know. I'm not saying that doesn't leave us free to lower those numbers even more, but I will say that those are the recommended amounts from the town accountant and the town administrator. With regard to expenses, the only one that they differed in opinion on was that the town accountant believed we should put the 50,000 back in the reserve fund that we elected to lower. He believes that a reserve of that amount is necessary, but he understood the reasoning behind it. So he said that where the town is moving and with a possible deficit this significant, a larger reserve fund would be the way to go. But again, he wasn't adamant that he understood the choices that were being made.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with what most have said. My last week's rant was more as a department head. There are many things you can do within a department, and I don't know if everybody's done it, but you can circle shifts, not fill a shift, drop to 3 or 2, save some money there. So my goal was to try to get a palatable number and then try to make up the difference from there. But if it's not something we believe is going to happen, and I don't want to be the one to put all the eggs in one basket either, if there was a chance to maybe try to save a couple of the 6 police officers that will go, and a couple of DPW guys, the fire guys. But if that's not, we don't think that's going to happen, then obviously I want to try to see if the override will pass so we can save everybody's job. I just think the equitable split all the way down is just, it's not correct. The school cannot give up $300,000 out of a $12 million budget, and the police department and fire department give up $500,000 out of a $2 million budget. It's the equitable share of that is just off. It's wrong. And no one or someone, or I'll be the one to say that they need to, they need to stop, because it's not going to get any better next year. It's not going to get any better the year after. We'll be going back for an override every single year. And to give up $300,000, I think, is pathetic. Just my stance.
Yep.
Kevin, while we're on the topic of trying to save, salvage, or get to the best budget we can, would you just discuss what we talked about in terms of my question of trying to not pay off that HVAC loan, and in fact that's not really the case?
Well, it's not a pay off, right? So this is the regularly scheduled payment. It's not, this is the first of 5 payments. So this isn't a pay off amount. This is what we owe on that HVAC unit. I think we had originally gotten word that, Mike, as you mentioned, it was a payoff, but it's not a payoff. It's the payment that's due. And I think I sent you all that spreadsheet of what is due over the next, was it 5 years or 6 years, I think, out. So, that's
5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's principal and interest on what we owe. So that is, I'll say, an unavoidable expense right now. With regard to, I will say that I had the discussion with the selectmen, Ken, to your point, we have to put some faith in the town that they are going to. Last year we saw they came out in overwhelming support of Whitman Hanson Regional School District. They entered into an agreement that I think this committee wasn't in favor of. They agreed to the assessment, a 1-year step in. We filled it with free cash, and I think all of us said, this is the wrong choice. We're making that, but the town came out overwhelmingly, in favor of it and overruled us in a vote. That being said, as we go forward with this override, it is not, in my discussion with the selectmen, it's not the end, right? So we're gonna put this on at town meeting. It'll get approved there. It'll go to the ballot. If it should fail at the ballot, one option is to have the selectmen call another town meeting, and then we go back, and then we have to, then we look, to your point, Ken, to okay, we talk to the police chief and the fire chief and say, what shifts can you fill? What's the, how much money do we need to move around? So while this is a serious issue, this override keeps us from having to continue on the road of the override. If we don't get the override, people are still going to get cuts. But I think we'll have, we will have another opportunity to sort of take another look at this and see if there is an opportunity. Is there a retirement in between those times? Is there somewhere we can shift some funds around and take another look at this? So I don't want, it is a daunting task. I am a firm believer that we need this override to bring us back to a point where operationally we can continue on year after year. I'm not saying it's ideal, but if you look at some of the statistics that I posted, we rely 93% on the residential levy to generate our taxes. We don't have a lot of commercial or industrial, but I just, the way I look at it is the town spoke overwhelmingly last year. We said it was a bad idea, and I think we had about an $800,000 deficit, right? We filled it with free cash, which is a terrible idea, using free cash to run an operating budget. Now, okay, here we are again. We said last year it was a bad idea. Now here it's a worse idea. So again, I don't think in the communications with Whitman, we're not in, they're not in as bad a shape because of the way the assessment shifted. So they are going to be, I don't want to speak for them, but it appears that they are going to be fine with this number, and they are fine moving forward with a somewhat of a reduction. I believe the school committee is meeting again tomorrow night for the final time. They voted not to, a motion was made at the last school committee meeting to reduce the assessment. It was not approved because it needed I think a 2/3 vote, and they didn't have the 2/3. It won in a majority vote, but not in a 2/3. And again, it wasn't a $1.85 million swing. I think it was to the tune of 400,000. So,
but 400,000 there, 400, what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying is their share is inadequate compared to the other shares that are going on. I get it.
Sure.
We're not gonna win. They have the votes on this. I get it. And, I can see it a mile away. It's just, it's not going to get any better until we can get a fair and equitable, say on the school committee, which I don't know if that will ever happen. It's just now that the municipal part of the town or the town government's going to have to take the brunt of it until we can figure out how to get out of it. That was my goal. My goal was not to say no to the 1.85 million because I'm against it. My goal was to try to get a number that I thought could pass without any issues and then work from there. We didn't have a lot of time, again, because I don't have a lot of faith in our selectmen because they don't, in my opinion, it's all last minute. And then we're playing catch up. This should have, we should have probably been doing this a while ago. We knew this was coming. Because I don't know that we gave the department heads the opportunity to sit and figure out and to come to us and say, hey, if we did A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, we could probably save a couple. Maybe we'll have a guy retired. Maybe we got a guy that's going to go out on whatever. And we won't lose, I don't need 4 positions. I only need 2. What can we do to save those 2? I don't need 6 positions. I can save a DPW guy. We didn't have a lot of that discussion. We were given, here, you need to have this on the ballot today. We had to put it on the ballot, and that's where we are. So I'm not against it, because I don't want to lay anybody off. We didn't have a lot of discussion or time over it. And I believe that to be our town forefathers and leaders at the top that just hold everything as a big giant secret until the end. They did it to us with the 800,000. That was an embarrassment for our committee, I thought, last year. And that's just how I want that to change. And I'll be the one to step up and speak about it. I don't really care, but that has to change.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Ken, that they, we don't, last year was, I don't think any one of us left that field feeling good about what happened. So, I think here we are again. And it always seems that we're running up against the wall, right to the very end. So yeah, it's all good points, Ken. Thank you.
I think part of it too is we're, at least in the town's view, the townspeople, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, right? We vote for this budget and it's, oh, you hate the police and you hate the fire departments and you want to close everybody down. It's like,
Totally. Yeah.
there's a word I'd say, but I won't say it because I'm recorded on Zoom right now. But I'd like where to tell those people to go. But the reality is we're backed into a corner, right? And if we do vote for it, it's like, well, you want to vote for this budget because you want that down. Well, if you vote against it, well, you hate the schools and you hate this and you hate that. It's like, well, no, we have to take our emotions out of it and vote on the financial position. It might not be our fault, but it's our problem, and we got to have a path forward. And we can't go back and change some of the ways those things have happened. I definitely wish a lot of our votes had gone differently at some of these town meetings, but to your point, Kevin, we had a huge, overwhelming turnout when we were around that football field a year or so ago. And we look at some of our other meetings and people are spending a half an hour beforehand pounding the phones trying to get just 100 people to show up. So let's see what happens in a few weeks. But I cross my fingers that we have to worry about social distancing and an overflow room and enough people in that place to cram it so we get a true voice of the town versus the same, out of the 100 to 150 people that show up, it's the same 60 to 80% that show up every time that make these votes that really do help decide. Now, granted, there's some bigger ballot options, but even deciding who goes on some of those ballots and the townwide votes gets decided at these town meetings. And it'd be nice if everybody showed up, at least the folks that complain about it on social media that we never see at these meetings. It'd be nice if they showed up, even if they voted a way that I felt that I was against or opposed to, but that's not the reality of it. So I think at this point, we got to make a vote going forward. And, I don't know if anybody else has any discussions, but I think at this point, we're talking in circles. I don't know if we're open to recommendations or not, but.
Mrs. Werdeman or Mrs. Wright, any thoughts to add to the discussion?
No additional for me.
No, I'm good.
Then
Okay.
hearing that, can I make a motion to recommend Article 4?
Second.
A motion has been made and so we'll have to rephrase that because let me just verify Article 4 here. So I think, Mike, what we would have to do is go back and say what the dollar value is we recommend. We can take our sheet and say, if you look at the general fund fiscal year 2022, our column is blank right now. So we need to recommend a dollar amount. We can, I think we could probably go through and say.
So this has 21,036,292 if the override doesn't pass. And that's for Article 4, right?
So it's 20, I'm just verifying the number here on the 29,000. I'm sorry, yeah, 29,000.
21,036,292.
That's correct. It doesn't.
If you look at the column on the general operating budget that says town administrator recommends, and then look it on our spreadsheet, they should match, and I believe they do. Article 4, $29,513,245.
Yeah, that's the one I'm seeing.
And I think, Mike, if we could just say, in accordance with the town administrator's recommendations.
Then let me rephrase that motion to say recommend Article 4, the town operating budget as recommended by the town administrator for a total budget of $29,513,245.
Motion's been made to recommend Article 4 in the sum of $29,513,245 in accordance with the town administrator's recommendations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Werdeman. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan.
Aye.
Mr. Dugan, aye. Mr. McCormick.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Powers.
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan, aye. Article 4 is recommended 6-0 in accordance with the town administrator's recommendations.
Kevin, I'm just gonna jump off of the Zoom meeting. I gotta go pick up my daughter. So I'll still be on the phone though. Hopefully it doesn't do what it did last week and not let me speak. All right.
Okay,
I'm just
thank
gonna
you.
keep the meeting, but I'll still be on the phone.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Article 5, discussion.
I mean, in my opinion, based on how we just voted on 4, it's, I don't know if there's much more to be said. I think a lot of it happened during that discussion, in my opinion, but I'll pass the buck to anybody else who wants to chat too.
I'll entertain
Agreed.
a motion on Article 5.
Make a motion to accept Article 5 as written in one.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mr. McCormick, seconded by Mrs. Werdeman. All those in favor, will do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan.
Aye.
Mr. McCormick.
Aye.
Mr. Powers.
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan, aye. The article is recommended 6-0. All right, that brings us, as I see it, outstanding articles are Article 9 and Article 16.
Make a recommendation to not recommend Article 9 as printed in the warrant because we have no information.
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. McCormick and seconded by Mr. Powers to not recommend Article 9 as printed. All those in favor, Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman,
Aye.
Mrs. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan, aye. Article is not recommended, 6-0. That brings us to Article 16. Further discussion on Article 16. I'll entertain a motion on Article 16.
Motion to approve 16.
Can you just recommend?
All right, motion to recommend Article 16.
Motion has been made to recommend Article 16, the Green Hanson Energy Aggregation. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made to recommend, made and seconded to recommend Article 16. The roll call vote, Mr. Dugan,
We already did
Sorry,
it.
we already did this one, didn't we? 3-3?
3-2.
no, it was 3-3.
3-3.
It's a non-vote.
So we're revoting the same article.
Correct. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't recommended, it wasn't not recommended because it was a 3-3 tie.
I thought the 3-3 tie was the,
That was the green,
That was-
right? The energy. I think
That's-
because of the numbers.
Yes.
This is the green energy.
This is the green,
It
all right.
was listed as 17 in the old paperwork that you
Oh,
got.
okay,
Because
then-
of the change, it's now 16.
Okay.
Green-
all right,
green
so
energy, I was saying, yeah.
hold on. Let's withdraw.
Withdraw. Yeah.
It's withdrawn. The article we're voting, the only one remaining that we haven't made a recommendation on is Article 6, the new, what will be Article 16, the Green Hanson Energy Aggregation.
It was
Everyone
formerly.
Everyone clear on what we're talking about?
The electricity, right?
That's correct.
the one that you
Yeah.
pulled.
Okay.
Is that the one you pulled, Kevin?
That's the one I held, yes.
I thought we already voted on that after you had the discussion.
It didn't go anywhere, so it ended in a 3-3 tie. So that's not a recommend or not recommend. Because if we switched it to do a not recommend, it would in turn, I guess, end the same way. So I mean, we don't have to revote it. I don't know what, I guess I'd have to look as to what marking it down, but it doesn't, you can't recommend it at a tie and you can't not recommend it as a tie. So I was, if we want to just leave that one, no decision.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to, I mean, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to stomp anybody's green dream and take that away from them. I think the selectmen voted yes, 5-0, is that correct?
That's what I'm showing on my sheet. That's not to say they didn't change it tonight, but yes, looks like their initial vote is yes, to recommend.
Just because there's some confusion around, I think my opinion is we potentially revote right now, even if it ends up in a tie 3-3, at least we lock it in what it is. We're confident walking out of it, regardless of future votes and just reconfirm everything. So we're good.
Okay, so
Recommendation, how the hell do I gotta word this? Motion to recommend, Article 16, the Green Hanson as written.
just a vote, as a motion has been made to recommend Article 16, the Green Hanson Energy Aggregation. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dugan. All those in favor of recommending Article 16, Green Hanson Energy Aggregation, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. McCormick.
I'm going to stick with my aye.
Mr. Powers.
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman.
Nay.
Mrs. Wright.
Nay.
Mr. Sullivan. Nay. It does not pass. Or it is not recommended. So I'll have to figure out how we word this one, but it's a 3-3.
Call it a draw.
I believe because it doesn't have majority vote, it ends up going as not recommended, but I would that.
I have to check on that. I believe it does, but I will check. And if there's, I'll have to check with what they. I'll check, and if we want to I'll let you know what the vote and what that signifies. If they say we have to re-vote it or it doesn't count or means nothing, then we can reopen it on Friday night and vote it again. So, all right,
Is that
let me,
something that we can revote at town meeting prior to? Our recommendation, I think, it doesn't change the article, it just changes our recommendation maybe, just before we
well, I
start.
mean, you can, but there's no way to, it's gonna come in as whatever we put it on this sheet and I give it to Greer on Tuesday. So that's gonna be there. I mean, yeah, we could say, oh, hold on, we voted, we voted for, or we changed our minds, we decided to recommend or not recommend this. We can.
Right. I'm comfortable with 3-3, to be quite frank with you, so.
All right, so that gives us, that I show us having made a recommendation on all the articles. Mr. Powers, if you can just verify, I note have us recommending articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19. And I have us not recommending Article 9, 14, and tentatively right now, Article 16, pending clarification.
That is what I have.
Okay. So I show us having completed both the annual town meeting and the special town meeting, as well as a total operating budget of $29,513,245 in accordance with the town administrator's recommendations. Did anyone see any glaring errors there?
Don't believe so.
Okay. So then what I'll do is I will transpose those numbers over to the finance committee recommends category. I will talk with the town administrator in the morning and the chairman of the board of selectmen and see if any last minute changes or adjustments were made at tonight's selectmen meeting. And then I will tentatively post for Friday night. And I don't know, I mean, looking at what we've done, we've completed our due diligence to the town, but I will post for Friday and we can go from there. Also, while I have everyone, I don't know what the requirement is. I don't know if they've decided how many people they want on the municipal panel on next Tuesday night. It is at 6 o'clock, I will say. So I believe, Mr. Powers, you're going to be out of town.
Correct.
Is there anyone who has interest being on the panel if they're allowing more than just one?
I don't want to be on the panel, but I do want to listen.
It will be televised.
Zoom, like this here, or
I believe it's going to be via Zoom. No, I take that back. I believe WHCA will be recording it like it does town meeting. So you'll be able to watch it on the television and participate that way. I won't say participate, but you'll be able to hear the discussion. I think they might have opened it up to, you can submit questions, I thought. Let me just check. I believe they said they were going to open a question link. Yes. Hanson override at hanson-ma.gov is where you can email your questions regarding the forum on Tuesday night, and they will be answered then. It says they posted this, looks like a couple days ago. There will be a public forum on Tuesday, April 21st at 6 p.m. at Whitman-Hanson Regional High School Auditorium to discuss the upcoming $1.85 million override ballot question. Social distancing and masks will be required. Please email your questions to Hanson override at hanson-ma.gov so they can be discussed at the forum or attend in person and participate in the discussion. But having before, when Paul was setting up tonight, our meeting tonight, he did mention that there was a discussion about Whitman Hanson Cable Access filming it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for tonight. I appreciate everyone's hard work and thoughtful discussion. Is there any final items that anyone wishes to discuss? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by Mr. Dugan,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powers. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Mrs. Werdeman,
Hi.
Mrs. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan. Aye. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Aye.